Welcome, Danielle Smiley, to the Dish with Dina podcast. Hey, we're getting back together. It's so nice to see you again.
Dina, it's been a long time.
It has been a long time. I was just looking at my calendar, and we'll talk a little bit more about how we know each other in a second, but I think we were assigned to each other in 2022. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. For right now, why don't you tell our audience who you are, where you're from, and then we'll dive a little deeper into all the details.
Okay, my name is Danielle Smiley. I am a registered dietitian, finally. I'm from Miami, Florida, and I am currently living in actually putting roots down in Maryland. And I do community nutrition consulting. I have two businesses, NutriDS, which is where I do more of my access work. So I accept insurance, do one-on-one counseling sessions, corporate wellness, speaking engagements, those kinds of things. And then also the founder and principal of my newest baby, which is called SculptReady. And it's a perioperative nutrition, a high touch boutique that focuses on women that are pursuing plastic or cosmetic surgery. So I help them prepare for it, heal from it, and sustain their results.
Yeah. See, this is what I love about this profession because I've had a wide variety of dietitians on, and I feel like when people go into the field or people who have heard about working with a dietitian, they don't realize how many specialty practices or areas of interest that we have. So, can you take us back a little bit further before you are where you are now as to what even got you into going for a dietetics credential, going through the internship? And most of the people that are our followers and our viewers and our listeners, they kind of know all of the things that are involved in it. But where did it all start for you?
Well, it was a long journey. It did not look like many other people's journeys. I earned my bachelor's degree in nutrition in 2003, then become a dietitian in 2023. So it was a 20-year journey. And during that time, I worked as a public health nutritionist in Spartanburg and Gaffney, South Carolina, and then in Hartford, Connecticut, I became the breastfeeding coordinator, program nutritionist, and then program director in the city of Hartford with WIC. I then transferred over to the program called REACH, which is Racial and Ethnic Approaches to Community Health. And at that time, the end of WIC and my time during REACH was actually during COVID. And I felt like the time was now to make a decision. Like, am I really going to pursue this credential or like, what am I going to do? And I ended up going back to UConn and updating my MNT courses or my medical nutrition therapy courses, and then applied, actually interviewed with you, I think, vitamin D for the internship and was accepted. And then you were my preceptor, and then ta-da.
No, to-da for sure, very big, because that's one of those things that I've sometimes touched upon. So a preceptor, for anybody who doesn't know, depending on the program of the dietetic internship, if it's a traditional path, the program director will place the interns into their rotation. So they have to do, whatever, 10 weeks at a food service
Mhm.
facility, 16 weeks in a hospital setting or a clinical setting, and so on and so forth. In the case of Danielle, you took the what's called a distance internship, meaning that you had to kind of find and secure and procure all of your rotations ahead of time. So
Yes.
distance DIs are still kind of finding their way and navigating the way because we've had some different criteria changes in the profession. What was
Mhm.
it back then that you felt most challenging? Just to kind of give people a heads up if they are going down that path of what to look out for or whether or not it's connections you were made or you were reaching out to have people help you put in touch, because especially during some of the height of COVID, I know we had to make some changes
Mhm.
last minute with like clinical things and where you could be on site versus remote work. So walk us through a little bit about kind of how you even got in touch with people that you were able to create that relationship with precepting.
It was interesting. It was definitely COVID. It was already going to be a challenge because of COVID. And, if you weren't assigned to a traditional DI, you had to find your rotations, like you said. But everybody was keeping you at arm's length. Like people were rejecting me left and right. So I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. And it ended up being really interesting because of the internship. So it was complete business dietetic internship, which focuses on business and entrepreneurship. So I thought that it was really interesting to get used to some type of rejection and being able to come back and like, I gotta ask you again, I gotta find somebody else. Like, I need these rotations. So I was cold calling people, emailing people, tapping into my network, trying to find things. And in some cases, it worked out well and easily. And in other cases, which is kind of how I got down my path, certain things just fell into my lap and I wasn't expecting it. And I just kind of went with it. It was an experience that I actually documented. So I don't know if I told you that I have or I did have the 40 something and interning podcast because I saw so many dietitians having podcasts, but no interns or students. And I didn't really set out for it to be something that I expected people to run to. I put it out there for myself because the journey was 20 years. I was like, this is going to be my audio diary about the experience that I've been waiting for. And then people actually found it and liked it.
I forgot all about that, Danielle, because that was really a truly great resource. Because, like you said, it was reflections on your own, but also very little was out there for people to understand what the actual process was. I want to come back in a second to the whole
Mm-hmm.
discussion around cold calling, rejection, networking, and stuff. But first, let's talk about how you ended up to where you are now. So, obviously, the internship that you were within had a specialty or an emphasis, as we sometimes call it, with the
Yeah.
business and entrepreneurship. So, that was your focus. A lot of people go through a clinical or a community setting, and maybe that's where they're going to go through. But sometimes people get a little bit nervous about hitting the ground running straight
Yeah.
out the gate. Now, granted, you had some background in community and other kinds of nutrition or patient facing type of
Yes.
business experience, but walk us through to what I feel is a very unique specialty practice right now for you.
It goes back to the internship itself because the internship's capstone project was kind of like Shark Tank, where you have to get up there and pitch. We had to create a business plan and we had to pitch it in front of dietitians of various backgrounds, finance people, business people, and they got to say like yay or nay. And that's nerve wracking. So, anyway, I had a cohort there were 13 of us, and my work before the internship was in maternal and child health, of course, like with WIC. And so my heart's work will always be prenatal through like fifth trimester because my own experience becoming a mom and afterwards, there was so much stuff that people didn't tell you, and I felt kind of unsupported in certain areas. And so that was my thought like, this is the plan. This is easy until I realized that six other people in my cohort had similar, they're not the same, but similar kind of thoughts. And as a competitor, a former athlete, like collegiate athlete, I'm like, I like to win. Like, let me think of something different here. And so I had rotations in bariatrics, didn't really care for that. I happened to have a network that's pretty heavy with physicians. And so I said, okay, maybe I could find an infertility clinic or something like that and, do some nutrition that way. And I couldn't find it, and none of my friends could find it during COVID. And so one of my daughter's godmothers is a breast specialist. And she was like, I've been looking, I can't find anybody, but I do have a friend that's a plastic surgeon in Brooklyn, and I think she'd be willing to take you on, like, if you're interested. I said, uh, okay. I didn't want to do bariatrics, but I knew a lot of people that had bariatric surgery and dropped a lot of weight, had excess skin. They would have to go to a plastic surgeon. And so I said, let me just go that route. So I spoke to that plastic surgeon and I did, some background and thinking of my own. I'm from Miami. Plastic surgery has been everywhere, whatever. I don't have any feelings about that, but I notice a lot of other people do. And the view is usually that it's shallow, it's vain, it's this and that. And um, the story that I mentioned to her that I often share is that I had an acquaintance of mine who spent $20,000 on plastic surgery. This was like 10, 12 years ago. And she looked amazing. She got it done for her wedding, like head to toe, gorgeous. A year later, she looked like she did before she had the surgery because she never changed anything. So her job very stressful, high intensity, so she wasn't sleeping well, not eating well, consuming a lot of alcohol, smoking, not exercising, just everything that we talk about. down the line. It was a mess. And so I mentioned it to her and I said, I think I could help them sustain the results because this is thousands of dollars that people are spending. And so she said, you're on to something, but I think you're missing a bigger piece. It's like, I don't know what that could be. So she allowed me to come in with her, and I got to be in on her consults, ask her patients questions. The most amazing part was that me being a dietitian got to go into the OR and see lipo, breast reconstruction, like all of the things. And I'm just sitting in the corner looking at this like, wow, because what I realized at that point is plastic surgery is science, but it's also art. And you have to have like a vision for these women or whomever, because it's not just women. And once we were done, she asked me, what did I think? It's like, it's amazing. I got a lot of stories from patients that came in, but what I realized was, and of course, doing research, was the results of plastic surgery are very dependent on where you are before you have the surgery. So how do you prepare yourself for the surgery? And of course, food and nutrition and everybody eats like it falls in line. Excellent opportunity. So completed it, did the pitch competition, won the pitch competition. So I knew there was something to it, and that's how I got started.
There is no such thing as coincidence, I always say on
No.
here. So the fact that you're like, oh, how weird, like somebody knows somebody who knows somebody, and then all of a sudden you get stuck in there. And interestingly enough, Danielle, what you were mentioning too about the bariatric experience that you weren't really too fond of, kind of the same rules apply. Like sometimes people are
Yeah,
going through that surgery, but if they have not yet, and this is, by the way, I'm just making a broad generalization of
sure.
assuming that people are getting bariatric surgery because they are in larger bodies or something has happened where they
Right.
are consuming excess food. And there's that relationship with food or healthy lifestyle in general. Just because you do something naturally through modifications of health habits or you're paying to get things done, whether your doctor is prescribing it or you're doing it on your own. Underneath it all, right, the ability to maintain and sustain something
Yeah.
long term is really what I think is at the heart of what you're doing. And I think that's fascinating. And herein lies the conversation, too. Sometimes we talk about not necessarily being able to put the responsibility on the patient, like they're not
Yeah.
ready yet to make these changes, but also they might not have access to the things to make the change.
Right.
What are have you been finding, or what did you find maybe as you were working on your business plan for these things? What is kind of like the pain point or the main challenge that might be able to sum up or maybe, generalize some of the patient population that you might be working with where you feel you're really able to step in and target?
I found that as I called different plastic surgery facilities, offices, whatever, I think I might have found one that had a nutrition coach. Nobody had anything. And so at the time, people were having a lot of surgery during COVID for a variety of reasons, but they were kind of lost. And I'm a lurker. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups. So I started joining plastic surgery groups to see like, what are they talking about? What are they saying? And the information being shared back and forth amongst themselves can really create some disordered eating, in preparation for it. Because at the time, and this was before the GLP-1s got really big and we started to not see them available, but people were trying to lose weight to get within certain windows in a BMI that the surgeon themselves felt comfortable performing the procedure with. And so there's a captive audience there. Like, if the person tells you that you're not a good candidate until you do these things, they're going to do anything because they want that surgery so bad. I felt that that was an opportunity for me to come in and be like, all right, what's going on? Let's figure out what you're doing now. It's no different, not very different than what we do in one-to-ones, except your goal is different than most. And we can figure out where you are and how to optimize your nutrition prior to the surgery, and then talk about like how you heal and what's going on. Because in this case, a lot of this is elective. There's a lot of international travel for plastic surgery. There's a lot of complications that happen, wounds that don't heal. Like, all kinds of things. And our protocols in nutrition still apply. It's still surgery.
How interesting to put that spin on it too. It's like a lot of times when we were talking about entering into the field of dietetics, a lot of students or interns might be saying to themselves, I really don't want to be in a hospital setting. But even in this specialty, there is a clinical component to it. Like you said, you're in surgery, you're coming out of it, it's wound healing, the preparation
Mm-hmm.
for things as well. And I
Yep.
also, as usual, I'm always scribbling things down. The other things I was talking about, I was coming into my brain as you were talking about, which is kind of what I do as well. Not so deep, but I'll go into Facebook groups with like licensed clinical social workers, right? People who are,
Absolutely.
because we don't have a lot of behavioral training, and I'm not saying that just by doing that, I feel confident to
Right.
do that,
Yeah.
obviously outside of my scope, but to listen to the language. So that's what you were saying too. Listen to the language, the challenges that even the professionals, the providers have, and how we can help support them or provide some whatever solutions, services to them. That is always an opportunity to find a way to be able to get
Mhm.
in. So I really love all the things you're saying. I think this brings me to, if people are uncomfortable doing things like this or they've never done it before, because we're also in a world now where everything is very social media, direct messaging. I loved the boots on the ground stuff. That's like you were saying too, putting together things and networking in
Yeah.
person. But what might you provide as some guidance for people who are looking to build their business or looking to engage in a practice or even just get a little bit more information aside from the stuff that we can do on the internet, like
Hmm.
Googling things or going into Facebook groups? What feels like, because you talked to me too a little bit about your like your plan, right, your business plan in action, what feels like the best return on your investment of whatever that is it boots on the ground, is it knocking on doors, is it setting up lunches, like what's kind of the stuff that you feel is working best for you or that you want to work best for you?
I am still figuring that out, if I'm being very honest. Today, before the call, actually last week, I got pamphlets done for both businesses. The end of last year, early this year, I focused hard on SculptReady, which is the plastic surgery business. So I was going to plastic surgeon offices, scouting the area, anything associated with aesthetics. So it was plastic surgery, med spas, dermatologists, like whatever, a hair salon, even. You just have to think of what parallels what it is that you're focusing on. I'm also an introvert. I don't know how this comes off. I promise you, I'm an introvert. This takes so much energy from me. But that's been the challenge because I almost have to step outside of myself to do it. Cold calls are hard for me. And so I figured, at least this is my current strategy. Let me put a packet together. So right now I have a pamphlet with my card. I wrote a white paper so that the studies are there. And then like a flyer with me, like, and when I have the conversation with the physicians, because there's two things, there's B2B and then there's B2C. So the B2B, I'm talking to the surgeons, I'm talking to their office manager, their nurses, I'm letting them know or asking them questions you should ask. Listen, always listen. Dietetics has a special power there. You got to listen. Talk to them and figure out where their pain points are. Like, do they have time? We know doctors are busy. If people are struggling with making their way to becoming a good candidate for the surgery itself, ask the people where the challenges are. Like, is it weight loss? Is it weight management? Like, are they anemic? It's all types of things. It's surgery. And so they'll tell you. And what I found is it's the weight loss. The issue is that a lot of people have switched over, providers have switched over to giving GLP-1s without a lot of guidance. And so the patient is struggling and then they're just like, oh, here's a pamphlet to the gym, just go to the gym. That's not the answer, sir or madam. That's not it. They need assistance and accountability and like consistency. So I found that to be a really big opportunity. And what I'm also planning to do now is mailing things off to various states because I'm also licensed in 5 states. So let me like don't limit yourself to one area. I really am reaching out to a bunch of people when in fact I only need two to be to sustain me with the referrals.
I love all the things that you're sharing too, because again, you're thinking outside the box. The fact that you just said you're an introvert, a part of me is like, what? But also I get it because if we are somewhat cut from the same cloth, people say that I'm comfortable in presenting and I make people feel comfortable to me too. But like you
Yes,
just use the key word there of it's a bit energy sucking. Like I can
it
only do
is.
things in small blocks. I don't necessarily get more energy from being around that kind of environment.
No.
So yeah, I need to go take a nap and lie down.
And yes, I prioritize sleep. I
Yes.
sleep. And all my friends will tell you I will cancel plans in a second.
Yeah.
Nope.
That's my favorite thing. If you need, by the way, just for anybody out there, if you need to cancel on me, I am 100% fine with that. Danielle, this brings me to the
Perfect.
question too about juggling so many things. So not just in the sense of like a business owner, but anyone who has responsibilities has a life
Yeah.
and has to juggle things. So talk to us a little bit specifically about business, but also professionally too. What is a typical or current, I'll say, a current week in the life of you where you might be needing some systems in place? Like you said, you put together some packets. So, organizing time to create, design things, make the calls? Is it a little bit of everything every day? Do you do time blocking? And then how are you also, right, work-life harmony? How are you also making sure that you are staying on top of whatever your non-negotiables are?
In full transparency, we just ended Q1. Q1 was really good for me as far as for what I wanted it to be, which is being visible. And so my caseload was packed for insurance base. And so, I need that to live and sustain. So you got that. And then trying to grow the SculptReady thing. So I started, just to let you know what happened. I actually had an anxiety attack about 2.5, 3 weeks ago because I just went too far. So I hired, I trialed a virtual assistant. I didn't know if I was ready for it yet or not, but I just wanted to give it a shot. And she's been amazing. She helped me create my pamphlets. So that took a little bit off my plate. I hired someone else to help me with a PowerPoint presentation because I actually just spoke at the Alabama Nutrition and Dietetics Conference, which was like huge for me. And so, caseload of at that time over 60, preparing for this presentation that I've been dying to get, and then trying to grow this business really burnt me out. And so, like you said, like you need to know what your parameters are, you need to know what your boundaries are. Time management. What's that? I have a planner, but I haven't really been sticking to it. So it's a learning process. I'm still a baby dietitian. I'm not even 2 years old yet. So this is a lot. But what I found that works, and I hear about this often, is systems. Like you really gotta write it down, set your time out, and stick to it. One of the non-negotiable things for me is going to the gym. I'm a 4 a.m. gym girly, and it's because it makes me feel good. When I go in there, I'm focused and it doesn't allow me time to think about anything else, which is interesting because when I leave my phone, my notes app is full. I got pages upon pages of just stuff. And so I feel like I'm opened up in there. And also, if I don't go to the gym and I don't have my coffee, I am not a good person. Non-negotiables, both of them.
You know how you run best. What you just mentioned reminded me that you also did an Instagram takeover for my account. And I
I
remember, yeah, I
did.
remember you getting up, crack of dawn, and really documenting all of that stuff. So I love the fact that even now there's more things piled on. You have your career launching, you're very busy in general with all the things you have to juggle, and you're still making sure that those things don't fall off the list. And I think that's something that, again, depending on whoever's listening to this, but also your potential clientele is it's not just for the current moment, right? It's not just the immediate
Mhm.
gratification as we tend these are themes that come up a ton in this podcast. It's about really slowing down and embracing the things that make you you, because then you can't give or you can't pour from an empty vessel, as we like to say here too. I also love the investment aspect of this too. Like you were not
Yeah,
sure about the virtual assistant, and sometimes people will invest in business coaches or whatever it is. Like maybe it's not somebody within your business, but somebody to take off house cleaning from you or
something.
whatever, or like delivering your groceries. Like where
Hmm.
is it that you can delegate? Because your time is really, really precious and you don't get that back. And if you're really trying to focus, there's only so much A, time in a week, and B, brain power, as we were just talking about with like, literal being able to focus on stuff. Like there are times where I feel completely run down. You mentioned the anxiety attack. I've gone through many a psychotic episode in my life, and also how it affects everything else. So when you're not
Yeah.
taking care of certain aspects of your health, sleep gets disrupted, stress gets increased. Then you're all of a sudden more at risk for high blood pressure and heart disease and all
Yep.
the fun things that come along with it. And you're back to square one. I think, talk a little bit too about sleep, because sleep is something that I think people forget. I work with student populations, but I also work with a variety of other patients and different clientele.
Hmm.
And it is one of the things, even as a dietitian, it's part of the questionnaire that I ask. And it's part of the things
Yep.
that I'll even say, let's not even talk about food. How's your sleep been going? So, what are some of the things that you do, like as a bedtime routine, and what do you think might be challenging, or things that you found in other people that are challenging, of why they might not be able to really get there when it comes to sleep quality and quantity?
I don't know if we're coming off of this or not, but I remember hearing a lot of people saying, I'll just sleep when I die. I'm like, well, honey, if you don't sleep, you're going to get closer to that. But for me, it's a non negotiable. I tell my clients, patients all the time, like, sleep is a secret weapon. Sleep is the time when your body can heal and restore, and you can't just run yourself into the mud. So for me, my daughter, so I'm also a geriatric parent, so I'm tired. And my daughter has a bedtime, and my bedtime is 5 minutes after her bedtime. So I go to bed early. I'm in bed ideally before 9 o'clock, and I wake up at 3:30. But before bed, when do I eat last? I think my last meal is usually, I try for it to be around 6:30. And then, we sit down, we read, we watch a little TV, catch up, take showers, and I wind myself down the way that I wind her down. So we start to cut things off and make things more dim. And, do you need a snack? No, no snacks. Okay, let's brush our teeth. And, it's a routine. Sleep hygiene is important. So when I talk to my clients and patients, a lot of them do not have sleep hygiene. They go to sleep very late. I mean, this is a stressful time. So people are kind of wound up, worried about different things. And because of that, I tell them, you really have to prioritize yourself. And though that is not just food, like you said, you're speaking to a dietitian, but I'm going to talk beyond that. So to be able to prepare for the next day, that starts the day before. So work backwards. What is it that you're trying to do? Oh, you want a good night's sleep? Okay, that means that we need to figure out what's going on in the evening. What time are we eating? What time did we shower? Do we want to read a book? Do we need to turn off the TV because blue lights? Do we need to what is one of the drinks? Somebody is having golden milk right now, so they do the turmeric with their milk and it just kind of winds them down. Any routine is individual. So I give suggestions, but people usually know what to do in many cases. So I don't know. As long as you prioritize the sleep, then things will get better. You'll be more energetic. Your appetite might be better. Your concentration, because there's a lot of brain fog right now, it plays a lot of roles. So I
Yeah,
don't play with it.
it absolutely does, and I think you're correct there too. If you have the questions to ask, or even on your own end, if you are struggling with sleep right now and you're listening to this or watching this, you can do a self-assessment. You can do a self-audit. What are the things that are keeping you up at night,
Mhm.
literally and figuratively keeping you up at night? Is it that you're scrolling incessantly on screens, and that stuff is visually going to keep you awake, but also mentally making you stress out over something
Yeah,
or whatever? Maybe do a quick brain dump, write things down. There's only so
write it
much time in,
down.
right. I do things like this too, Danielle, like the stuff with the backwards thinking. It's my fault, right? If I let things go too far the night before, then I'm like, ah, dang, now I can't do XYZ. And I really don't want to sacrifice sleep. So I'll sometimes sacrifice other things. Like I might cancel something. I might make my lunch a
Yep.
little shorter, or I might move my workout into later in the afternoon versus getting up in the morning, because I don't want to get rid of, the time that I'm actually having quality sleep. So you're
Yep.
absolutely right. Everything is an individualized approach. The role of the internet and the larger world and things about social media, I sometimes look at it as a necessary evil, but I do have a love-hate relationship, as I shared with you before we hit record. Where do
Mhm.
you see any areas that you could utilize social media for whatever it is that your messaging is getting out there. Like, let's speak it into existence now. And where do you might maybe where are you currently noticing any issues or challenges or hot topics or things that you might want to address when it comes to social media for people who are looking for some guidance, whether it's food nutrition, plastic surgery, weight management, etc.
There's actually a lot. There's a lot. Well, you know this, like there's everybody has an opinion on nutrition. So it is very individual. I think people have to be careful with where they're getting their information. There's some fantastic dietitians out there. And I mean, even before I was a dietitian, I still was vetting the information that I might share online. So you have to be careful where you get it. The AI has taken over, looking like real people, sounding very confident and official, and it's craziness, you know? You just got to be careful, but it's also easy to get the doom scrolling. I don't know who it's helping. It's not helping me. We were discussing before we logged on, like how it used to be so much fun. And I wonder if I didn't have businesses, would it still be fun? Because right now, most of the things that I post, and I got way too many pages too, but most of the things that I post has to do with work. And I was once told by a business coach that I had, like, your social media is you can use that to be your personal brand, and that rolls into your business brand. And so there was a perspective of, if you're posting on social media, then it should be with a bigger vision of impacting your business. So at that time, I stopped being on social media for fun. And because it's work, and sometimes the posts are really fun, and other times it's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? How am I going to say it better than this person said it? And am I creative enough? Or because I'm 47 and so I'm grown, and topics that I like to talk about may be a little bit edgy for our profession. And so I'm walking that line right now. Like, what do I want to say? Because what I appreciate about influencers is that they take a chance. They're going to tap into what the community or the population that's following them wants to hear, and they are going to push the button. We have ethics to abide by, and being, health professionals, medical professionals, we have to be careful about how we present ourselves. But I think there's a way to merge the two, and I'm still working on that.
I want to be my authentic self. And there
Yes,
is a matter of understanding, you're not for everyone. And that's the whole point, too.
right.
Like, we want people to find us who think we can speak their language, we're like-minded, we jive with them. But then we also don't want to have uncivil, disrespectful discourse. But like you said, there's a lot of trolls out there, and you
Yeah,
say something that feels very simple. Like, don't even get me started about, carbohydrates play a role
they're
in
waiting
whatever.
on it.
And they're waiting on it. And then it's like, I gotta go delete all my apps now because I don't want to be in a fist fight, virtual fist fight with people online who hate bread. Like, why are you yelling at me?
I'm arguing with you. I'm like, what'd you say? Oh, okay. That's fine.
pick
Next.
and pick and choose your battle. Like, you want to be respectful, delete, block, whatever, but you also just, you can't have that take over your energy when,
Mm-mm.
like you said, you have a purpose and a mission to follow. This doesn't fit
Yeah.
in that right now. I absolutely love all this. Danielle, let's talk about whatever it is that you feel we didn't get a chance to discuss. Is there anything that I haven't asked you? Any final words of wisdom, whether it's to your future patient population or dietetic interns, or even kids in high school right now who are thinking about going into the health sciences profession? Anything that you can give as far as guidance or advice that we didn't necessarily touch upon right now?
A couple of things. What I didn't mention about myself is, I know outwardly I list myself as like the plastic surgery dietitian, which it's aesthetic, but it's also functional or reconstructive. So people go in for knee replacements. I've had patients that have done that, or hip replacements or whatever. What I would want people to understand is that there it's multifunctional. So I'm speaking from an aesthetic lens, but I could also apply these same protocols somewhere else. So that's one thing. There's an education component when it comes to plastic surgery. There's plastic surgery, board certified plastic surgeons, and there's board certified cosmetic surgeons. And so the little riff that we have with nutritionists, plastic surgeons have it with cosmetic surgeons, completely different. And that could be its own separate conversation. The other thing is what, like I said, like I'm a plastic surgery dietitian, but I like to, it feels more comfortable to say like a quality of life dietitian because people choose plastic surgery for various reasons. And at the end of those reasons, it's about their quality of life. So some of the patients that I've spoken to have been moms, and it kind of connects back to community nutrition. They're moms of multiple kids. They breastfed like we tell them, like you should do. And then they do it, and your body changes. Gravity takes hold to the point that some of these moms don't even take pictures with their kids. They don't go to the beach because, for fear or confidence. These are reasons that people make these choices. And once I realized that, I started working in long-term care, and it was another quality of life thing because people that are in long-term care, many of them that I dealt with were, they were on their way to the end of it. And and I love the geriatric population, not that that's all that were there, but I love them because they say what's on their mind. They shoot from the hip and they share like shoulda, coulda, wouldas. I wish I would have done this when I was younger. I wish I wasn't afraid. I wish I ate better and listened to my doctor. I wish that I would walk, run, exercise, dance more. And if I did, maybe I would still have my independence. Maybe I would, be living vibrantly. Maybe I wouldn't have left it on the table. And so hearing those things made me feel, okay, if this is what you wish you would have done, what was it or what is it that I can do to connect the dots to that? Improve your life. How do you want to do it? What's your interest? Oh, you want to have plastic surgery? Okay. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about preparing you for that the right way so that before it you're changing your behaviors because eating is hard. We've been doing it forever, and once you get in certain habits, you're not ready to change them. That takes time. So work with them leading up to it so that once it's over, they're trusting of you to heal and eat appropriately afterwards. But not only that, yeah, you got the body that you dreamed of. How are you going to keep it? You just spent $15,000. It'll be easier for you to stick to eating whole, quality protein and quality carbohydrates and being able to identify what a healthy fat is and why you should. It's the same work. I'm getting you where I want you to go quietly, but we're also going to get you nice and fine too. But I'm still going to like sneak in some good nutrition. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about for me. Are you happy? Are you thriving? Are you feeling your best? Okay, job done. I did it. And you can do that in so many different ways. And that's why I speak to students about it because I think this newer generation, dietetics isn't sexy. It's kind of boring. But you can make it be what you want it to be. And so when I walk around with plastic surgery dietitian on my shirt, I either get people that roll their eyes at me that I don't care about, or I get people that raise an eyebrow. They're like, what is this? I've never heard of this before. Like, let me talk to you about it. And I hope that people can identify by looking around themselves or thinking back to when they were young and what they saw about them. What problem can you solve? This problem, I can solve this problem because there's also a lot of death associated with plastic surgery because you go to people that aren't qualified to do it, or you didn't meet your surgeon beforehand, or you told your surgeon what you wanted and they automatically said yes instead of saying no and explaining to you why. I feel like while it's the surgeon's responsibility to do the right things, it's your responsibility to prepare yourself for it and ask the right questions and know that the person that you're basically laying your life in their hands, that they can do what they're supposed to do for you. So many things, all good. And I hope that I can help people just feel better about life.
Yeah, like you said, connecting the dots so that the inside kind of matches the outside now. Because no matter what you're going through, whether it's reconstructive stuff or you're going for a different look and feel of how
Yeah.
maybe something you didn't feel confident about, underneath it all, are you still the same 11-year-old who got made fun of or bullied
Yep.
or, punished by their parents? So, you still need some deep inner work. And that's definitely
Yeah.
something that comes along with working with dietitians too. Like we're really trying to get at the root cause of a lot of things, whether it's behavioral or intake or whatever. And I also love what you said too. Like sometimes people don't know the questions to ask, and having a few more people in your what we call the interdisciplinary team, right? Reaching
Hmm.
out and just cross-checking things. Just because I've said this time and time again, and I'm sorry to use the language of like lazy medicine, but
So
just because, right, somebody is what people or patients feel is more highly qualified because somebody is a doctor versus a nurse versus a dietitian. Nuh-uh. We all play a role
it's
in
like
that.
work together.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
We all play a role in that. And we can call each other out on things that we have, strengths or weaknesses on. I've said this time and time, I'm not going to perform open heart surgery.
Not at all.
I'm not going to deliver your baby, but just because I can put a band-aid on you doesn't make me qualified to work in the medical field in that respect.
Correct.
So same thing, just because a doctor or a nurse practitioner, or even a specialist like an endocrinologist, whatever, sometimes they will or will not hand you a meal plan and tell you, like you said, or give you a GLP-1 and call it a day. They're not getting at the
Hmm.
root to things. They don't understand the nuance. They don't understand the behavior, the access to things, cultural significance of how food
Yes.
is tied to traditions. And, we really want to make sure that you get the best support possible to quality of life, to live the best life that you possibly can live.
Absolutely.
I will wrap up with my final two-part question. My two-part question is, what is on your plate today, Danielle? So when we wrap up, figuratively, what's the next thing that you are working on? And then what is the next thing that you are eating?
I'm a big foodie and I like food from everywhere. And it's Friday, which means that today is my fun food day. So they have here in Maryland this big Nashville, what is it, Kentucky hot chicken or Nashville hot chicken. We have so many places, and I don't regularly eat fried chicken, but I am going there as soon as we get off today. And I'm going to continue to be running around networking with my pamphlets and stuff. I'm going to be submitting proposals for more speaking engagements and things like that. I'm just trying to get out of my introvert shell. That's the plan for the year, business wise, and learning boundaries myself.
Absolutely. Danielle, thank you. I am first of all, so proud of you, how far you've
Thank
come.
you,
All
Dina.
of these like pioneer efforts that you're making in our profession, but also for your own life too. Because like you said, you've had a lot of experience. This is kind of like a new next chapter.
I appreciate you so much. You've been there since before the beginning, and
I'll continue. I'll continue
yes,
supporting you after and beyond.
super inspirational. Yeah.